The UK economy powered ahead in the first quarter of this year with GDP of 0.8%. Since 2009, when quantitative easing began, equity prices are almost 90% higher. Corporate bond prices are up more than 40% and government bond prices have risen 15%. How much of a boost has QE given the UK? I'm Sophia Aribo, and joining me to talk about QE is Rob Harbron from the Centre of Economics and Business Research. The Bank of England is forecast to maintain its QE cash stimulus programme at £375 billion. With inflation remaining low, what else could prompt the bank to begin winding down QE?
We've heard from the Bank of England that they intend to hold on to their asset purchases, at least until interest rates reach a normal level, which is moving away from the emergency rates of only 0.5% that we've had since the financial crisis now. And as it's looking likely that rates will start to rise in early 2015, they could potentially reach a stable level a couple of years after, at which point we could start to see them unwinding QE. So anything that helps to speed up recovery and reduce spare capacity and increase productivity growth would mean faster rate rises and therefore an earlier unwinding of QE.
The Bank of England's Andy Haldane has defended QE against the argument that it's contributing to inequality. What are your thoughts on this?
I would say that in some respects QE may have contributed to inequality, as it increases the price of the financial holdings that the wealthy have by boosting the demand for the gilts that the government is selling. And at the same time, it's increasing inflation when they were doing the purchases, that increased inflation and therefore eroded the real wages of poorer workers. But the idea of QE was to boost growth, to prevent things from being worse than they were. And an important factor of the 2008-09 recession was that unemployment didn't rise by as much as in previous recessions, which potentially was because the central bank was seen to be taking positive action, so firms expected recovery to be soon. So QE may have prevented more people from losing their jobs, so in that respect it may have stopped inequality from becoming worse.
Rob, of course, another major economy that's gone down the QE path is the US. Why is the UK further along in the process of wrapping up QE?
The UK is closer towards selling off its assets than the US is in QE terms, largely because the US mortgage market took much more of a battering than the UK's did as a result of the financial crisis. So a greater stimulus package was required to shore up things there. But in addition, the UK government has largely stepped back from austerity measures over the past few years. They haven't really made any significant cuts in real terms. This compares to the US, where the federal government has cut back quite sharply and continues to do so. So a much larger monetary stimulus is required to offset this fiscal tightening.
And Rob, to what extent do you think QE has been a success?
It's quite a hard aspect to measure because we don't have a counterfactual for this, but it appears that QE was successful in keeping the cost of borrowing cheap for the UK government. It lowered the yields on gilts, which reduces interest payments and therefore the long-term level of debt for the UK government to some extent, which helps us a bit more in the longer term. But it didn't appear to feed through into growth as much as they would have liked and perhaps expected, so not quite as successful there as it could have been, but of course it's hard to know for sure on that regard.
Thanks, Rob. You've been watching Dukascopy TV. For coverage of what's happening at the ECB today, be sure to watch Kiri Blaw's report. Bye for now.